千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. As always, I want to extend my welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we are ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. So these ideas about the Tao, the motivating factor of the stars, the planets, human beings, human societies, living things, plants, animals, everything. These ideas, when do they originate? Where did they come from? I want to dig into that a little bit and perhaps take the opportunity to dispel some misinformation or misconceptions. What is the origin of Tao philosophy? I've got two columns here. I have widespread misconception, and then I have the real origin of the Tao. Two columns. And the graphic that you see here is Lao Tzu, painted, depicted as riding his oxen. The misconceptions that I want to address are still in various sources of information today. So I think it's a good idea for me to touch on them as a way to protect people from misinformation, that when they see it, when they come across misconceptions, they will recognize it and then recall to mind what we're talking about here today and have the correct information instead. So one misconception is that Taoism originated during the Warring Stage period 2,500 years ago, because that was when Lao Tzu lived. So this is like saying that Taoism originated with Lao Tzu 2,500 years ago. This is still something that you will read about in some encyclopedias and online sources that purport to be authoritative. But the actual origin of the Tao goes far back in time, much further back in time. It actually originated in prehistoric China at least 5,000 years ago. So the true origin of the Tao is at least as ancient to Lao Tzu himself as he is to us. When we go back in time to his time, we time travel 2,500 years. Lao Tzu will have to time travel 2,500 years to get to something resembling the beginning of the Tao. So the Tao is incredibly ancient. When people describe the Tao as New Age, in my mind, I think, well, actually it's old age, very old. 2,500 years don't even describe the age of the Tao. More like 5,000, possibly older. Possibly much older. It's just that anything before 5,000 years is lost in the midst of history for the simple reason that there were no written records being kept prior to that time. So the other misconception was about the Tao Te Ching was written 2,500 years ago, which is correct, serves as the source text. Well, people think of the Tao Te Ching as sort of like the Bible of Taoism, but that is because that's what they know. In reality, there are other books about the Tao written long before the Tao Te Ching. The most prominent example is the I Ching, and people call it the Book of Changes, but it's more accurately translated as the Classic of Changes, or the Change Classic is a good translation for I Ching. And please note, when I say I Ching, that is the way it is pronounced. It is also the way people are supposed to pronounce it using the Wade-Giles romanization system. It is not I Ching, it is not I Ching, it's I Ching. It predated the Tao Te Ching by at least 2,000 years. And if there's anything that should be pointed to as the source text or the original text, it will be more the I Ching than the Tao Te Ching, just because it's been around for 2,000 years at least before the Tao Te Ching was written. Lastly, Lao Tzu wrote the Tao Te Ching and became the founder of Taoism. If one were to search on founder of Taoism, oftentimes one will land on Lao Tzu. And this is also not quite accurate, because Lao Tzu actually did not originate or found anything. He was not the founder of Tao Te Ching or Taoism or Tao philosophy. He wrote the Tao Te Ching, and in the Tao Te Ching itself, he referred to the ancient times. He talked about antiquity, ancient masters. When you count them up together, he talked about it 10 different times in various chapters of the Tao Te Ching. He was very clear in recognizing the contribution of the ancient sages who came before him. He was pointing out that he was learning from the ancient masters. So he was not the founder. He was not the originator. The concepts in the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu was able to summarize from many different books about the Tao. Most of the books that Lao Tzu had access to have been lost in history. We have no idea what they actually said. They have been destroyed. He was able to summarize them, giving us a glimpse back to the past that was thousands of years before his time. So, bottom line, Lao Tzu summarized Tao concepts into the Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching was a summary. He was not the founder. He was someone who created the Tao Te Ching as a simple, easy, quick way for people to absorb a lot of different Tao concepts from many, many different books. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.